Welcome back to Anime Savants, everyone. And this week I am a Diver Diva stan, because I actually am one in real life. And if you don't know who Diver Diva is, go fucking Google it. But
I need to find out what Diver Diva is.
I mean, it's idol shit, so I don't know if you're gonna enjoy it.
I mean, maybe I won't. This week I am Railgun. I just started watching the entire series, but in particular I started watching Accelerator, which I'd never watched.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and not in like a deep way. I'm trying to just understand the world of Railgun. And I gotta give it a little more credit than I had in the past because...
Wait, like Index, right? Are we talking
all of
about
it.
Like
So,
okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well I guess Index came first, right?
I've tried to start
was Index first,
times.
or am I wrong?
Index was first. Railgun was the like spin-off.
Yeah, I saw that one first and I was like, okay, there might be something to it. Then I tried to watch Index a long time ago and I was like, oh no, this is something else. And then I watched Accelerator, I'm like, well, this is a lot better than all those other ones.
Yeah, there's like a different order. Like some people tell you to watch it in the release order of the animes, and then there's also like an order of like the actual order of events, because I think some things like jump before Index starts, and then the other seasons are like during Index or during specific things of Index. But I've tried to start Index like 4 times. I'm not feeling
It's a weird mix of comedy and like a pretty well developed, or at least thought out, shonen sci-fi sort of universe. And so you like, I always got the feeling when I was watching Railgun that there was a lot of really decent development that had been done on a bunch of other characters. I think I knew that it was sort of a sequel or a spin-off or something. So yeah. I always just sort of like was passed off like, well, maybe they got it right here and I'm watching like a more well-developed concept. But then people were talking about like there were 4, how many seasons of Index were there? Like 5? Like it's a lot.
Yeah, there are a lot right now.
Yeah, and folks are talking, oh, you gotta go watch Index, So I'm like, okay. And I've tried to start it like 3 times, and there's something about like the 4th or 5th episode where it's after the flame dude showed up at his house, and I felt like the story just cratered and I had no interest in what was going on after that. Because it was goofy, but then it was also serious, and I was like, And then I watched Accelerator, I'm like, oh, because I think I like this one because he's an asshole. Because he's a fucking dick.
I haven't even gotten to the point where he's really like super duper in the story yet, I think.
He doesn't, I don't even know if he shows up in Index till super, I don't know.
Yeah, but all I know is that I've watched all the openings and shit like that, and I could tell, I was like, yeah, that dude's a dick. Like, he's an asshole. He looks like a villain turned like, not regretful, but like begrudging hero or something.
That's kind of, as far as I know, what it is.
Yeah.
But that was cool. So I'm trying to get into it again. We'll see if I make it. I may or may not.
So let's go ahead and knock out Spy X Family. I don't know.
It's got to have one. The title has to be Elegance.
Elegance. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That'll be this week's episode. Elegance, because it's just good. It's just good. I will say the number one thing for me that I'm really liking about this show is niggas getting their just desserts in the same episode. They're not drawing shit out. Like, and also, like, that's some evil shit to be mean to a little child like that. Like, you gotta be...
Yeah, that was fucking crazy. If someone was talking like that to my 6-year-old, yo, bro. They're getting thrashed thoroughly.
It would, first of all, like, just the speaking, I would have been like, no, you out of line. But then once the child's tears are seen, it's kind of just like, oh, well, what do you expect to happen right now? What do you think is going to happen? Exactly.
Catching the hands from left to right, back to the left, back to the right, putting that man in the dirt.
He honestly could have been dead because Yor, like, cracked them knuckles, and I was like, watch one of a stabby come out of nowhere. I was like,
yeah, she loves her knives.
Listen, I was so ready, and then they give it to us the same episode. I'm like, yes, but also the punch wasn't even. The punch was great. I loved the punch, but the best part, or another good part about it, was um Lloyd turning it on them and was like, you know what? We don't even want her to go here no more because y'all are ghetto. You're ghetto. We're not leaving her here anymore. Get up, Anya. Let's go.
But I did love how he talked all that good shit. Then they got back to the apartment. He's like, "Oh, I fucked up. We all fucked up."
It's just it's honestly no misses. I don't really see the show missing at all at this point now. I feel like they have a very like solid, like, I don't know what it is or how it is in the actual like manga, you know, how tight knit or how close things are, or how like fast the arcs go, or if they're more like vignettes. But overall, like this, if it's just like what you exactly said, where it's just like, you know, real life shit with spy and assassin and telepath little girl, like a little bit of like mix on it. This is great, and they are just as over the top as you said they were. The faculty, the housemaster dude, the elegance. I loved his back and forth calling them elegant, and then they're like, yo, she scored like this on the test. He's like, oh, I'm elegant. Oh.
She's dumb.
Yeah, like, oh, no.
And she couldn't write her own name, but she's a 6-year-old. Like, this was fucking crazy. Okay, so the fun part I was thinking about in this episode, but I thought about this, you know, when I was doing a little intro into the manga way back in the day before it got announced. It's very interesting to me that you could remove 100% of the spy narrative of the story. Like, just take out every scene, every line of dialogue. And it would work perfectly fine. It would work. It would just be like an over-the-top comedy about, you know, a put-together family trying to get their daughter into school or something, right? You wouldn't have to change much. And if you kept all the same beats and all the sort of outlandish activity, and you could even like have the, you know, the same backstory for all the characters, but you just took out the ticking clock of this mission that has to be accomplished, the show works. And it would be endearing, and all the characters would be, I think, just as relatable and wacky. But when you add that piece, the dual message that every scene is sending is what endears the show to me personally, right? Because in the beginning, when they're talking a lot about, you know, well, what are the qualifications that are being used at Eden, the Eden School or Eden College, you know, how do they judge people? Well, they judge people based on what they have constructed as a sort of like social standing, social hierarchy, graces, elegance, things that like we associate with class. But as we see in the show, they're just sort of put on behaviors that can easily be faked and fooled, and a lot of the folks who are supposed to embody them are actually frauds in some way. Like they either don't actually adhere to those rules, like the guy who was berating Anya about her dead mom, or on the other hand, they are taking things to such a ridiculous extreme just to keep the riffraff out. And so that commentary is happening. Meanwhile, there's like a stampede of animals that get like, you know, you're taking out a fucking cow, and then having Anya like, you know what I mean, like having Anya have a telepathic thing, and then it walks away. Like the expressions on the animal. I don't know if you saw the horse that was running. It had the most comical fucking animated face where like the head is kind of flapping in the air while it's like charging down, and
no,
all
I
of
did
it.
not notice him.
It's ridiculous.
I noticed the angry cow.
Yeah, there was the angry cow, but they also had like the meme horse as well, and but like all of that stuff, while it's wacky and it's ridiculous, kind of does relate to a lot of the way we in our regular lives try to put on for both like class and dignity and pride and everything else, so to show a certain face that's not a real face. So the show's actually playing with a lot of relatively nuanced but relatable ideas, but it's packaging them in this way that like ping pongs between incredibly serious and incredibly wacky, incredibly over the top, to take the edge off of a lot of it. Because like I said, if I was in Lloyd's position sitting in that interview and somebody was talking all kinds of hot shit to my child, even though we had this goal of getting them into the best school, I wanted him to punch that dude in the throat and just paint the walls with the blood of everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted that to happen, and not because it would be the most exciting thing that could happen on the show, because I would have felt the same way if I was in that situation. There's plenty of times I'll be watching or reading, something, and that's the scenario that's set up. I could give a shit because I don't connect with any of the characters or the premise. Whereas here, even though I knew it wasn't going to happen, in the back of my head, I'm like, just fucking kill that motherfucker. Fucking kill him. Kill the piece of shit. Oh, fucking kill him. You know what I mean? So this episode is like a microcosm of what the show is very successful at doing.
Yeah. I also thought it was very accurate that the one who got everything through legacy admission was the piece of shit. I was like, oh, legacy. Mm-hmm. Everything. Legacy everything. Mm-hmm. And you're jaded. But also, well, not even jaded. I was like, you're legacy, you're a piece of shit. And it just so happens that your wife recognized that you're a piece of shit, not worth sticking around for. So she's gone, and now you mad at everybody else because you probably, that's a rant for. Let me not even get on that. Anyways, I also thought it was very interesting that Anya could read animal minds also. I didn't know that was a possibility. So that was a very interesting thing that will probably come up later, but I don't know. But it's nice to know that she can do that with, like, not just humans. It's just like living beings.
Yeah, the extent of her abilities kind of fluctuates around depending on what's needed to do some storytelling. Like, for example, in the prior episode, in the prior episode, we find out that she can't really deal with crowds, right? Like, crowds are a big deal. And then in this episode, the beginning, they mention it. Hey, you're gonna be cool with, like, some hundreds of people running around. She's like, oh, okay, I'm good in this scenario. And then again, it kind of swung back around. So I'm not saying that's not a plot hole. They address it, but she's a useful character to have because you can do both adorable and also kind of almost Deus Ex Machina sort of activities with her, and they don't feel forced because you kind of come to accept that she's the literal magical schoolgirl. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you accept that. That's just if you're someone who's like watching it and you go to the first episode and you think, oh, it's all cool, and then you're dealing with a single psychic, and it's like, okay, I'm out of the story because this is so out of left field for whatever. Goodbye. And if you're into it, you're gonna be like, okay, I'm cool with anything that happens going forward. So yeah. So there was that. I think my favorite running gag in the episode was the always having a change of clothes. So so the idea being that they have all these traps around the school to, I guess, just make people fuck up their outfits because that's not elegant. And they're obsessed with it, and they take it pretty far. And every time something happens, like getting the kid out of the gutter or the animal attack or whatever, they always had a change of clothes, and each change of clothes was progressively more, elegant than the last one. I think was a fun little joke to ride for the scope of the series, because if I'm really thinking about it, outside of like Anya being able to do like psychic shit, almost everything else every character's done up until now has been more or less grounded, but being able to like have an instant clothes change and keep going is like the weirdest thing. It's like, when you see Looney Tunes and like a character will like stretch and squash in order to like get the physicality of a scene over. But like, if you think about it, that's really fucking weird. Like, them being able to like whip into some new clothes and keep going. Like a magic bag just had all the stuff in it.
It's kind of realistic though when you're dealing with like a kid just like existing, and you're going to do something like that important. Like, you could turn your back and the kid could be jumping in a puddle in like their fucking clothes. You're like, God, what the fuck?
Yeah, fuck, yeah.
Like, why of all the days you want to jump in the puddle now? And it's like, yeah, there's a puddle, nigga, I want to jump in it. Like, yeah. So like that, I actually was just like, This is just Lloyd being extremely prepared.
Yes, and it's believable. I'm not saying it's unbelievable. I'm just saying, like, you can see that this is how they will lean into the wacky for the other characters. Because Anya can do things that are outside the scope of the story, even through her special ability. She's kind of in the inner monologue, since she's the only one that can hear everybody. She's almost a narrator in some sense, and so that's like, you know, an aspect of the storytelling, but then also to get the rest of the cast to do improbable and wacky things, but have it be believable, takes a lot of work. Because the more you do stuff like that, the less you diminish a lot of the tension, but they bring it in very strongly because a lot of what happens, they're kind of like praying that stuff works out. It's not just like, oh, well, Lloyd is prepared, so they won the day. No, they actually got to the interview and fucked it up, but it hinged on one character, the Henry Henderson guy, the elegant butler teacher. Like, him having a soft spot for the family after watching what they were about and actually standing up for his principles. That was actually a good scene. He said something that a lot of characters don't say, or people really, is that if you actually, you know, are about what you say you're about, then sometimes you got to eat shit. Right? Like, he knew he was going to get in trouble, possibly going at the son of the former headmaster, but he said, fuck it. Like, this guy's a piece of shit. This is an elegant ass family. If we can't bring someone like that in here, then what does the school stand for in the first place? So I thought that was all to the good, and the episode kind of wrapped on a, you know, sort of cliffhanger, sort of good note, because the family got together at the end, and, you know. So,
yeah, we'll see. I'm pretty sure everything's gonna be fine, or they're gonna find a sneakier way to get in or some shit like that, using their powers or whatever. But we'll see. It won't be sad for long. What else did you watch?
So, in search of like something else to pass the time this season, I actually picked up what's it called? It's got a long ass name. Some of these like ridiculous light novels, but I'm just gonna
Otome game.
Yeah, so I just call it Trapped in a Otome game, but it's like Trapped in a Otome game as a mob character who just wants a something or other. I don't. This has to stop. This fucking light novel naming has got to end. I don't know what series it began with, but like, oh my god, that's half the reason I don't read light novels and their attendant like anime, because these names are so unbelievable.
But I anyway, feel like they have to give it to you, or else the people won't take the chance on the light novel.
Right? No, they tell you the whole story in the title. Yeah. So I'm gonna do my best to summarize, since I watched the first 5 episodes that are out, and I have not actually read. There's a manga that's probably up to about 50 chapters, and I've not read it, so I don't really. Okay. I know that it's probably gonna, the show's probably gonna adapt the first 2 arcs, which may equal about 30 chapters or so. So I know that much, but I have not actually gone and read it, even though there was a part of me that if it's this short, you know, at least the manga adaptation, maybe I should check it out. But, so the series begins with a day worker who's been up for days, possibly even weeks, trying to full complete an Otome game. Oh. And you're like, and he's complaining the whole time, and that's sort of the first intro, is his monologue about how everything that's happening in this game is unrealistic, the game is unbalanced, the characters are stupid or awful, the world that they're in is like put together in a hodgepodge way by an author who wanted to write, you know, or wanted to create something for girls, but all he did was make stuff for guys. So there's like 10,000 different themes in there. There's like fantasy and romance, but also like high technology and strategy game. And
okay,
also,
so I was gonna say there's like a mecha person.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a pay to win game, and he hates, the character hates that, and so he's just going in, and we're like, why? If you hate this game so much, why are you playing it? Well, the reason is that his sister is forcing him to play this game because she wants to see the 100% complete ending of the game and doesn't want to play it herself. And she is blackmailing him. And she is blackmailing him based on some undisclosed thing that she knows that he has that she'll tell their parents about if he doesn't just beat the game for her, which I assume is like, you know, the X folder on his computer.
Yeah.
Whatever's in there, right? So that is the setup, and we spend about like 3 to 5 minutes him going over the game, all the things that are wrong with it, setting up his backstory about his regular ass life, and he hates it, and he finally gets to the point where he 100% completes the game. He is dehydrated and hungry, and you know his eyes are spinning, and he's like, I need just to eat something, and so he walks out of his apartment and seems to collapse and fall down the stairs. Theoretically, he dies. Okay? He wakes up and he's in another world. He can't really identify where he's at, but he's a child. It's not like born, but he's sort of inhabiting the body of a very young person, you know, and he's like, oh shit. Things that I'm looking at are like that horrible ass Otome game that I was playing. And he's very quickly informed that yes, he is in the world of this game, and he resolves at that point to, and this is where I think the show works pretty well. He both kind of declares revenge on this situation, but very quickly he acclimates to living in the world. He's like, actually, fuck all this. I just want to live a normal ass life. Like, leave me alone. I'm not involved with the stupid academy. These dumb I'm not doing any of this. I just want to live a regular ass decent life out in the hinterlands and just not be bothered. So that is the setup.
Yeah.
Okay,
he technically is a mob character.
He's just a mob character, and his new name is Leon. So we are introduced to a lot of ideas that I think set up for actually interesting stories. The first is that the world that he's born into is one where women have all the power in society, and men are more like women are in our society, which is to say that people are equal on paper, but instead of sort of women being pressured to learn etiquette and, you know, be agreeable and, you know, find a husband, it's men who are sort of treated as these disposable commodities who have to learn etiquette and have to be agreeable. And they go to this academy in order, I think it's Whole Fort Academy or something. But these schools, they're not there to get an education. They're not there to, like, you know, become philosophers or scientists or anything else. They're there to meet high-powered women of money or nobility or high rank in society and get married. And so all of their sort of life's accomplishments, whether it's like land ownership or status in society, passes through women. So that right away can take you down like one or two roads. The one I was afraid of was that this would be sort of like an incel manifesto where you take a lot of the real life indignities that women have to sit through and suffer, and you spin them such that you have a male character righting all the wrongs in the world, but doing it for men, right? Like, that would be, I think, a attractive model for a story, but it would lead to very, very uncomfortable and, in my opinion, like tone deaf sorts of writing. And in a way, that may be why I didn't like Shield Hero or some of the other series that kind of take this man scorned revenge story and like spin it out into ways to just like punish powerful women, you know, for the sake of punishing them. I'm not against it as like a storytelling device, but I just it doesn't excite me, and I think it can lead to justifying some pretty awful shit, as we know from Redo of Healer, right? Like, that's kind of the vibe underneath the story is kind of a woman hating, you know, revenge fantasy. But that's not really what this series does, and that I think that it's for good and for ill that it kind of gets away from that a little bit. So we learn very quickly that Leon is sort of like the third child of a husband to a very powerful female noble who is cruel and not like, you know, she's not like beating her children into submission because they're men, but it's more like she doesn't give a fuck about any child that can't do anything for her status, and she abuses her husband, because in this world, I guess you can take mistresses and so on, and so he's had a couple of kids by a accepted mistress, but those kids are not the other woman's kids. So she's like, well, you know, you can have them, but we ain't educating them in the house. We ain't, you know, treating them like our normal children. And as Leon comes of age, he realizes that, oh, this woman is fucking shit, and I don't want to, like, my fate, if I stay in this family, is either to get married off to some ghastly hag who just wants to use me for my body, or it's to go to war, in which case I just become cannon fodder, you know, and I'm going to die a horrible death. So his only way out of that predicament as he comes of age, since the family cannot afford to send him to one of these like schools so that he can become, you know, an eligible bachelor and find a rich wife, he has to bring in the equivalent amount of money if he wants to avoid disarranged marriage or death. And so at that point, he, you know, and prior to when he had sort of come to terms with the world, he had written down everything he remembered about the game. And then kind of, right, he, like, because this was, his original plan was revenge, but he was like, but on what? Who cares? And he pulls the book out, and he's like, okay, I got 100% complete in this game. So I know where all the secrets are. I know where, you know, the party will go.
When is where.
Right. So he basically gets his dad to front him a bunch of cash, goes on a little mini adventure where he goes right to where some end game loot is, but it was the loot that he bought because the game is pay to win in reality. So he had bought this, but like he knew where to find it in the world because you have to go get it in the world once you pay for it. But once you get that thing in the game, you're just OP, and in this world you're also OP. So he goes and he gets it, and that's what kind of gives him access to this technology that's beyond what the normal people in the game have. But between that and the fact that he knows basically what's going to happen, he uses that as sort of leverage to get into the school, and then that's when the main plot begins of him kind of, you know.
That sounds very interesting.
It is, and there's a further twist where he had to play as the female protagonist when he was playing the game. He gets there at around the same age that girl is, and he starts seeing scenes that he knows from the game almost word for word. You know, it's like, okay, this scene happens and that, so he kind of knows the lay of the land. He's good, but something right, but something weird happens. He runs into the first scene we're shown of the game is the conversation between the Otome game protagonist and the main prince that she's sort of courting in the game, and we see all the dialogue, we see everything else, and we see the characters speaking. Then we get to the game, and the same scene happens, but there's a problem. Is that the girl who's in the scene and the girl who's actually having the conversation are two different girls. And he already saw the protagonist girl enter the school. So right away he's like, hold on a minute. What the fuck is this? This is a completely different person. What changed? And so that mystery and its sort of resolution is the first arc of the story that's told in the season. It's covered basically in the first 5 chapters. And I don't want to give anything away for anybody who's interested in following the series.
I want to go watch this shit now. That sounds like my kind of shit.
Right. So that's cool. I like all that. I like kind of where that story resolves. There's just a little bit of a problem now that I've watched the first 5 episodes, which is it feels to me, and I don't know if anyone's a light novel reader can, you know, put me in my place, let me know what's really going on. It feels to me like all the best ideas were in that first arc, because things kind of wrap up in a way that I don't really see how you continue this or how you move to a similarly satisfying story after the mid-season conclusion that we got. But it also, there's a lot of loose ends that could be tied up as well, or I don't know. And the episode that's coming up seems like I don't want to say a waste of time, but it seems like, you know, downtime. And then probably we'll get the latter half of the season, and it is what it is. So I don't know anything about where the story's going, but it's interesting because remember, it's an Otome game, so it starts out as a reverse harem because that's what the original story is.
Yeah.
And then the main character comes in and starts kind of getting his squad together, and it's kind of sort of a reverse harem situation. But with like side characters instead of the main cast. So I like what I saw. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna be out here like, yo, this shit is trash. Because I normally don't like a lot of the details that I would use to describe this series. Don't like isekai. Not a big fan of most comedy series unless they're very well written. Don't like harems. Don't like otome shit. Don't like school settings. Don't like any of the shit. Revengers. I'm done with it. I'm burnt out. But I'll give credit where credit's due. Bishibi Yomu, who is like the mangaka, found a way to mix a lot of the stuff, make some pretty interesting points, I think social points, and keep it light enough that it's worth following without, numbing your brain to just absolute goop. But I don't know where it goes further after this little bit, so I will continue to watch, and if it's any good, I'll report back. But it's a series that I did not give a chance, but I was impressed by what they were able to pull out of it.
Okay. Well, now I have something in addition to my other assignments for this weekend to check out. For me, I really didn't watch anything else, but I did read something else, which is what we talked about. Well, not last week because y'all got those 2 episodes this week, but it was the 2 weeks before. Anyways, I read more God of High School, so I got beyond the anime. And, all right, well, like, if you don't know, spoilers are coming. So, Jin was a piece of shit in his previous life. Jin was a piece of shit. Jin Taejin was a brolic ass motherfucker. I don't know what the U.S. government has going on, what they're trying to do with like the modified bodysuits and having niggas like infiltrate the South Korean government. I don't know what the fuck's going on in North Korea. Or like, why was Jin's body in North Korea? Mm-hmm. Why wasn't it in the Taoist world? Like, or the Sage world? Like, y'all, so much shit's happening.
That's my favorite, by the way, like, character backstory. Like, I've been, like, as a writer, the way they made use of a lot of the North Korean traits, like the relationship between North and South Korea to tell that story, I really enjoyed that a lot.
I thought that the North Korean niggas were going to come through and start murking them. And I was like, no, it's the Americans. Yep. Like, what is going on? And then also for like Park Mubon Park or whatever the fuck his name is, to like go to Obama in the universe.
Right, we buried the lead. Obama is all over this fucking series.
I'm like, why the fuck is Obama everywhere? Like,
this feels like Air Gear. Like, I don't know if anyone who's ever read Air Gear. It's fucking great. But there's a point at the end of the last 2 arcs where I guess Obama gets elected somewhere in the time frame of when they were writing. And so the mangaka was so obsessed with Obama that he wrote Obama into the story by having him trade bodies with a high school girl who's part of yes, and so Obama is in Air Gear.
Okay, I don't know.
Inside the body of a Japanese schoolgirl.
I didn't know that. Are you kidding me?
I shit you not.
Okay, listen. All right, it is what it is. 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 Fine. They love that nigga. Like, he keeps popping up the Pentagon, which also makes me think like, you must not really be the person that's running shit in America, or maybe he was fucking around with Mubong, and like didn't know. But like, those niggas said they were from America, so I'm like, all right, well, that's another storyline. The monkey story, like the Monkey Nation. And like the evil religious society purposefully telling them not to eat the fruits and not train in the way that would actually make them a threat and shit like that. I'm like, of course, perfect, love that, right. Love that. But also the storyline of the monkey pawn, like the fake king.
Yes.
Or with like the little sister.
I love that story. That was great.
Yeah, I was like, bruh, I completely understand where he's coming from, and also Jin. Your previous self, you were a piece of shit. Like, you were.
He promised them.
You an other piece of shit. So it's kind of just like, like it's kind of not even kind of your fault. It's your fault. Like, come on. But even so, I'm excited to see the other people that fought along with him, with he and Uma. Wait, yeah, the Ox King. Wait, what's this? Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna put that on. This is gonna be a YouTube video. This is gonna flash by on the screen. Cause holy fucking shit. But yeah, I want to see the rest of that cast that came through with that. And Uma, great character. Also, the body horror is just getting like worse and worse. Like niggas are regularly like losing. I think from the moment that homeboy bit off, the like bit homeboy's grandson's body, like torso off, and then took the arm and like the foot of the other person. They didn't show the arm and the foot disconnected, but then after once the next arc started, they were just like, we showing all this shit. Like you getting this, you getting that, you getting. I was like, oh, okay. We showing like full delimbing and like bone coming out, like bone. Like I think one of the commissioners like blocked one of Jin's kicks, and he was just walking, and just his bones were just sticking out.
Yeah, that's fucking like, gross. They don't care.
I was like, what the fuck? I was like,
they don't give a shit.
How'd the bones come out? He was like, ha ha ha. Now I understand how he broke homeboy's arm in the first arc. I'm like, the hell? Nigga, what? So yeah, it's getting way more graphic with that, which is not a bad thing, but it's just kind of like, oh, this wasn't what we were doing in the first one, so I just wasn't expecting this. I'm also enjoying how they're keeping niggas weak. Like everyone isn't just getting like I'm fucking powerful, or like I trained for 1 month and I'm on Jin's level, nigga. Like let's go. It's like, no, you can only do specific things. That's it for now. Doesn't mean you're not gonna get better, but you are nowhere near Jin, and you probably won't get to this level of Jin for another arc or two, and you're still gonna be weak. I don't know where they're taking the characters, but even so, I'm just like, especially with like Mira, like I'm just like, yo, like they're making it. I'm not saying they're driving it home. They're like, oh, you're a weak woman, but they're driving it home that she recognizes that she is weak, but she's at the point now where she's like, I'm weak, but I can still get some shit done. Like I can still contribute. And I like that. I like that she's just like, okay, well, I'm not just gonna wallow and just be like, you don't need me. I'm not coming. She's like, no, I'm gonna fucking like fight and figure out how to do this shit.
Yeah, one of the great things about God of High School as a series, and I'd put Tower of God in a similar creative space as well. So anyone who grew up watching stuff like Dragon Ball or Fist of the North Star or really the classic shonen would understand that there's a storytelling challenge when it comes to power scaling and characterization, because typically it doesn't matter what kind of story you're talking about, they revolve around the drama of conflicting characters. But if you have a protagonist, the expectation of the audience is that protagonist is going to improve and surpass and win. Surpass and win. And as you're spending all that time on your main character, what happens to all the supporting cast is literally that they start out on the same level, or maybe some of them are above, and then as your character progresses, they get stronger. They go through crazy feats. They're the ones going through it. It's not the supporting cast. And so if you want to keep them up with the main character, you have to think just as hard about what their trajectory is going to be and what they're going to have to do as you are the lead. And, you know, if you go back to Fist of the North Star, that was like one man's journey. You didn't need any of these other motherfuckers, right? They'll teach a technique or he'll have a moment with them, and then Kendra's on to the next one, 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 until he gets to his brother, and just spoiler alert, he wins, and then that's the story, okay? I mean, obviously there have been 18 billion spinoffs, but that's what the story is. You don't need some dude that, you know, you became friends with in episode 2 to be out there handling business in episode 26. He's not needed. So that dude disappears. Dragon Ball Z had another problem, which is when Fist of the North Star was made, it was just about telling a fun story about guys fighting. Dragon Ball became a merchandise thing, which means characters, there's other reasons for characters to be there other than whether they're important to the story, right? You got to keep going. So when you're in the Boo saga and we're still seeing Krillin out here trying to do something, ain't nobody put no time into Krillin. Krillin wasn't going through... He wasn't going through his own arc, trying to like, how do I keep up with Goku? I gotta find... They're figuring that out now with Vegeta, because the power scaling in Dragon Ball has gone so off the rails that like, now that none of the supporting characters have any value whatsoever, they gotta come up with shit. If you watch Super, or what they're doing right now in the manga, they gotta come up with shit to at least keep him like a level below Goku so he can even be in the story. Because if you don't have that, what the fuck? What's the point of any of these motherfuckers? Maybe one of the androids, because they kind of have
a posse.
They got world hacks, so they can do things nobody else can do. But like, short of that,
what? Wait, what?
Yeah, because they don't have normal ki. They have the parts that are in them from Dr. Gero. So they can do things like, absorb and nullify, which no one else can do, right? But there's no character development. It's not like, oh, well, 17 and 18 got all this investment. It's just on paper. They can do this, so they get penciled into a story. Then you look at Tower of God and God of High School. These are two series that have enormous casts.
Yeah. Primary
and secondary. And all those people have to be moving at the same speed and the same direction as the main characters, but they're not going to get the time.
Whether they're on or off screen.
Right. So what do? You have to constantly be setting guys or girls in motion to be changing and growing so that when they come back into the story, they're coming back at a level where it feels like they could do something, or that there's a face-off that, you've been building up that now makes sense, because it's too easy to dump all that development into like the villain and the main character, and then like, oh shit, we got like 8 other characters. What the fuck? Like, what are they gonna do, right? He's gonna fight the guy with the goat horns.
Tien and Yamcha said, "Yo, I'm at the house. I can't help you. I'm at the house."
So what God of High School does is they turn over the cast. That's what they do. You're constantly getting a flow of secondary supporting characters, secondary and supporting villains that are constantly expanding. So you might meet one person say, oh, that was the big bad, but no, there's 17 more. And then even if none of those are given the level of development, if you make a couple of those sort of like supporting cast members or villains have an interesting little ability, or be like particularly vicious, or do something dastardly, like kill a character that you really, really like wash somebody, right, to establish themselves, well, guess what? You've got a rotating carousel of other characters that can be turned in, brought back in. Oh, I forgot about them. That was from, the second arc, and now he's back, but he's got the abilities because he's been training, and then we get sick of him, they get them off screen, or they kill them, and then you bring one of your secondary protagonists in. I don't want to give away what happens in the next arc, but they pull off something which I have not seen done successfully very often in shonen, which is like depowering your main character without depowering them. Like, that concept is hard to do. It's very difficult. So I give both those series credit, because they got a lot of plate spinning at the same time with a lot of characters, and for the most part it's satisfying when they pop back up and actually do something.
Yeah, especially Tower of God. Like, Jesus Christ, I can't even.
This week.
Speaking of Tower of God, let me just go ahead and get on in to my next little fucking rant. Because I got a rant this week. Oh man, y'all can't do shit like this. I don't know if any of you all have seen it, but there is a video on YouTube that's going around. It's not in English. I don't know how it popped up on my YouTube recommendations. It's probably because I've been saying Tower of God so much to my phone that, like, Apple or whatever was like, nigga, give him something. Like, Google, hey, he keep talking about this shit. So it popped up, and it was a video, and I clicked it because it showed like Kun, like on the on like the special stage, part of the prologue where they're like playing the crown game.
Yep.
And it's him, but he has two like
Two lighthouses.
2 lighthouses, and I'm like, that's not right. I was like, why does he have that? Why is this in the thumbnail? So I clicked the thumbnail. I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Gotcha.
So I clicked that thumbnail, and bitch, it's a fucking Tower of God mobile gotcha game.
Come about them pockets.
Part
of
the opening is that they animated like highlights of the prologue, and then they skip straight to the Ulrich Mazino fucking fight where he first meets Ulrich Mazino. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And like, I'm sitting there like, ooh, end. And I'm like, what the fuck you made it?
Same thing happened to me with that Gundam game. I'm like, what is this? This is some good shit? And it's like, nah, bro.
It was so, and so immediately I'm like, what is this? It's all in Korean. So I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? Da, 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 da. So then I find another version of it, apparently from the actual like account. And at the end of the video, they show the gameplay of the actual fucking game. And I'm like, oh shit. And like at that moment, I already accepted. I was like, if this goes global, I'm in.
They got your money. They got it.
I'm done. They showed like a version of Kun with like, I think it's the version of Kun from like the beginning of the first arc, but after the prologue. So like I think he has like that coat or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And then the way you get to see how they like attack individually and shit like that, and I'm like, oh my god! Like, can you imagine like? Oh, what happens when we get to like the Black Shinsu reign and like thinking like what happens?
You're thinking too far. No, you can't think like that because that Black Shinsu reign won't be here until you're fucking 45. So you better slow the fuck down.
Not with a gotcha game. Oh, they're gonna.
Well, okay,
like,
yeah, with the you're right. Not with the gotcha game.
No,
you're right about that. You're right about that. You're right about that.
They might even do shit where they'll be like, this is going on in the manhwa, and we're just gonna bring this character in right now, and we haven't even released that story yet. We haven't even released that story yet in the game. We're bringing this shit in here. Like, let's go. I am so... I think this is a positive and it is a negative. The positive part about this is, if this is very successful, then I'm hoping that it goes the Fate Grand Order route.
Okay. That's a good point. That's a very, very good point.
I'm hoping that it goes the Fate Grand Order route, where it's like, okay, this is actually way bigger than we expected it to be, and we have money to animate. Like, we have excess money to animate, so let's do it. Let's animate. And Type Moon, all their animated projects have been fucking phenomenal. But usually they get like Ufotable to get a lot of their stuff. But they've been like branching out away from Ufotable lately, and it's still been really good shit. So I have hope. I'm not expecting this within the next 2 or 3 years, because they're definitely gonna like rake the money in for a bit and then be like, all right, let's give these niggas like some more. Like, let's give these niggas some more anime. And hopefully, you know, if that doesn't happen, then we get a global version. I want a global version. Like, put it in English, okay? Put it in English. Let's go. And yeah, I learned about the Tower of God gotcha game. Is it out? I don't even know if they dropped it yet, but I do know like it's Korean only for the moment. So we're gonna see, y'all. We're gonna see. I hope this is up, like, you know, a shining star, like a little flicker of hope, because Crunchyroll at this point, I feel like they're just done. So, but yeah, fuck them for putting that fight up there. Like,
here's an interesting question. I don't know if you remember this, and maybe I should probably take a look at that video too. Do you happen to know if Webtoon, the Webtoon logo, was included anywhere in the promotional part of the video? Because I've had this question, and I've been sitting on it for, you know, the last God knows how long, since Power of God kind of came and went, and Crunchyroll got acquired. So maybe this is like a side topic, but how much damage do you think the fate of the Crunchyroll original caused to the relationship between that brand and company and Webtoon, which basically gave them like 2.5 of their most popular IPs at the time? Or 3, I guess. Yeah, I mean, no. I'm trying to figure out if maybe Noblesse was actually bigger than. God, god of high school as far as like international popularity, because you know, you look at it, it's like hot, sexy vampires, and have been running for, I think, longer before. But I don't know. But anyway, they basically gave them 3 of their top IPs, and they fumbled the bag so hard, and they fumbled it so hard that like
I'm watching this Orc fight again. Let me send this shit to you. I don't see the webtoon thing anywhere on this.
Yeah, they fumbled the bag so hard that we didn't even hear about the possibility of there being like a follow up. No idea like where that IP even sits anymore as far as like animation rights. Like, it is literally lost in some weird kind of legal hell limbo space that we will never get an answer to. And it makes me like deeply question if things like this are the kind of stuff that we should get excited about, i.e., oh, well, now that we see that they're, you know, doing something with this money printing engine that is Tower of God again, maybe there's a possibility that they still see value in it as like a international IP that we could do more with. Or is it now just like a boutique thing where they can't even make like animation with this? They can't do anything with it because it's lost in this hell. And also, why would they ever partner with any of the people they partner with in the first place? Because Crunchyroll's not owned by Sony, a Japanese company. Like, I don't know what the relations are like over there. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of like webtoons that in the back of my head, I'm like, why haven't these been optioned as anime? And they just aren't. It's like not domestic. It's not anything. It's just, they're just not happening. So I have all these questions, but I'm curious to see if Webtoon is on this in any way as like a rights holder. Is this through them, or is a game IP? So I'm just so curious. I don't have answers. I got no answers, but I've been thinking about it in the back of my head, like irritated for years. Like, these motherfuckers fucked everything up, and now I cannot get this shit out of anything but a goddamn gacha game. You motherfuckers.
I mean, oh wow. Okay, the game actually looks kind of cute. Okay, maybe I'll give it a little test. I can't read Korean nor comprehend it, but I can click buttons. So we'll see what fucking happens.
Someone who knows, please do tell. Also, when I like a couple days ago, I was just looking for news about some of those series just to see if anything had changed since because all the Crunchyroll Funimation merger stuff is now over. So Funimation kind of won that fight. The old CEO of Funimation is now the CEO of the new combined company. They've done a lot. They've let go of a lot of folks. They've kind of shit canned a lot of their divisions that weren't doing very well. So more or less, however the company looks right now is the way it's going to look going forward, because it's all done. And I was waiting till it was over to be like, okay, what's the state of play going forward? And I cannot find any information about anything other than some like localization right stuff. Like, it is fucking radio silence on all things related to like their animation studios. It's nothing. Maybe
they'll start announcing stuff coming closer towards like Comic-Con.
Maybe, like, but I know they're making things. Like, I am aware of some series that are in or I have calls out for things through the Crunchyroll umbrella. It is weird to me. I don't know what the fuck is happening.
Maybe they're on the like, don't announce until like you know, shit's actually like, you know, produced or like halfway finished or some shit like that. Maybe it's something like that.
No, everything you're saying is super possible. I don't know what's happened. But yeah, there is that.
Okay, so then as far as news goes,
couple of things ending. Golden Kamuy manga is closing itself out. If you have been reading that or followed it at all, it just ended basically last week, but it got a very satisfying ending. And frankly, I wish some other series that, you know, were more beloved kind of got the treatment that this story did on the way out. But hey, you know, Spilled Milk. Break Blade also ending.
I saw that, and I've never even touched Break Blade. So
I've dipped in and out of it before so a series of I thought they were making a TV show out of it years ago, but it was really just like movies, right? I think there were like 4 or 5 movies that got produced. I fell out of the manga about maybe 3 or 4 years into its run because it had such a sporadic release schedule. It was one of those monthly comics, but it was really good. And I found the art and a lot of the direction that the story was going awesome. The first Break Blade movie I think was really good, and then it just like disappeared, right? And so I didn't even realize that it had been running
for 20 years, right?
Yeah, but again, because it's a monthly release, there's only like 100 plus. Maybe it's about 100 chapters, maybe like 102, 103, something like that. But they're long. Like these are like sometimes 60, 70 page chapters. The final chapter is going to be 140 pages long. I don't even know where the story is at because I fell out of it so early. But like now that it's over, I actually thought it got canceled, to be blunt. I thought it did not exist. I think I read
something that like this is the end of phase 2 and there are 4 phases.
Oh, well, then fuck me. Okay. But yeah, so now I was like, I could probably go back and read it now that I am into it. Or that this part's over and I'm still into it. So yeah, that's what I'm.
I didn't know that there was anything before it. I just thought, I was like, I thought the series is just ending, but I guess not.
I don't know. So there's that. I guess Bubble's coming or is here. When is it released? Bubble's here?
The 28th. So it was released last week. I'm gonna watch it.
Same.
Close to the weekend, so I'll like. I mean, we're not gonna do like a formal review on it, but I'll let you know my thoughts on it. Like, you know,
I'm casually excited because it looks great, but I'm prepared. Really I'm prepared for the story to be utter gobbledygook. I'm just saying, I'm prepared for that.
I'm prepared for a tragedy. It's Urabochi.
Well, yeah, but like in addition to it being Urabochi also can write some pretty fucking nonsensical stories. Like I love Guilty Crown. But like Guilty Crown is fucking weird.
Oh my god, Guilty Crown is so.
It's like 8. So there's like 8 stories in there. Like when they're in that abandoned school in like the middle, and like everyone's just dying, and like you're just like, wait, what? What's happening?
It's such a huge shift.
Yes.
I was so excited for that fucking show. I was like, this is like Magical Girl, but like not really Magical Girl, but like, I love the part where like each student could give him like a different equipment.
Right, and then they made it dark as fuck. Like, oh wait, if you do this, you're killing us.
Anyways, whatever. The ending of
yeah, I know.
Okay. God damn it. God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. So there is a chance that this could also turn.
It could be fucking. I mean. Not only is that like, you know, I love Gen Urabochi. I love basically everything he's ever done with a couple of exceptions, but like I love it because I'm into it. If you're not like into him, there's like, you know, like when someone says a movie is like a very Tarantino movie. If you watch Tarantino movies, you know exactly what that means. You're like, oh, either you're into this or you are absolutely not going to be into this. Gen Urabochi, I understand for other people, is the exact same way. On top of that, the producer is the author of Platinum End. One of the producers.
I think so?
Yeah, like yeah, so like if you go from Death Note to Platinum End, you see like the same guy on one extreme of doing like stuff that he likes to do in a very compelling way that everybody loves, you know, and then you have Platinum End on the other end of that, which is like similar ideas, same guy, but it's weird as fuck, and if you're not into his shit, then like this is not going to work for you at all.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they're both involved in the same project. And the range of outcomes is just as wide.
Well, it looks good.
Yeah, it does look. It looks fucking fantastic.
What else? Did you watch this anti-hero thing? Well, no, I don't know. You probably haven't because it's not even translated yet.
No.
There's what's it called? Anti-hero Generations. It was like a one-shot that won a competition, and Plot, which I didn't even know what Plot was. It's like YouTube's anime like division.
Really? Oh wait, I did see. I thought that it was But I saw one whatever, it's like a drawn promo for it. I thought it was like an actual My Hero knockoff, and I'm like, what in God's name is happening?
It gives me like well there's definitely like a kaiju element, but it gives me like what the fucking bunny, Tiger and Bunny.
Oh, Tiger and Bunny, yeah.
Yeah, like
I liked the first season. I did not watch the second season.
I didn't finish the first season, but I don't know. I feel like Netflix is like making some shows suffer with like the full release kind of thing, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But the visual promo looks good. I hit the link to go and watch it, and then I tried to watch it, but they don't have any English subtitles with it. So I was kind of like, I'll wait for someone to put some subtitles on this, and then I'll come back around to it. But the animation style is very interesting. It's like still like manga, like moving mouths and shit like that. But it didn't look too crazy to me. So it's not like super fully animated. Like what came out recently that was in that same style? Was it House Husband?
Yeah, Way of the House Husband, the animated version.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to that, but even more like closer to the manga. But either way, still.
I mean, I'm open to it. I'm not totally out on it at all. I walked my eyes wandered past it without paying too close attention because I didn't know any of the backstory. I was like, we'll see what this is. Yeah.
So I don't know what the fuck's going on over there with Macross, but okay. But the fucking like gacha game is ending, so that fucking sucks. For me, because one of the elements that are the element that I like the most about the Macross series is the idol aspect with Valkyrie for Delta. So I love seeing the new songs and the shit like come out on that game and watching it on YouTube. So the game is shutting down, so whatever. That's news for me. But then also I'm wondering, I was like, are you guys gearing up for like another iteration? Are we getting like another kind of, not a reboot, but like another like form of Macross, or is something wrong? But also it's a gacha game, and them shits they just close. So it is they've made enough money from it. It debuted in 2017, so I feel like they've made a decent amount of money from that. I feel, and Spy X Family is getting a musical, so.
These quick hits, right?
I think it's going to be, that is actually on brand for that. I can very much so see it.
Yeah, it would work perfectly. And again,
an elegant song. I can see that.
Oh my god.
I can see that going viral. I can see that shit going viral.
That would be fucking fantastic.
I can see it going viral. I'm very much so interested in this. Like, I feel like it would be so good. I even want to see it maybe even, well, no, not like Broadway wise, but maybe it could be. It depends. Either way, it's great because stage anything means that shit's popping off.
Yep.
But are the other ones musicals? Are they just stage plays?
I thought most of them
are just stage plays.
I assume all of these are musicals in some sense.
Oh.
Because how else are they? I mean, you're not. Well, I don't want to say. Maybe I'm pigeonholing a little bit too much. Like, I have seen a certain style of stage performance for both original and adapted work that's in Japan. That's like it's an intersection between like an actual play, a live music video, and what you would think of more as like a traditional Western style musical. So when I say they're all kind of musicals, like I think a lot of them include musical performances. How they, like Makai is a good example if you ever see one of those on YouTube where they have like acted segments, but then when they're in they do stuff on stage and off stage, and sometimes it does feel a lot like a full musical, and sometimes it feels like a small theater troupe production of some action drama, whatever. So I don't know, but it would work for a musical, I think. A lot of jazz, a lot of swing music.
Oh yeah, the jazz element could definitely be used. Hell yeah. What else is there? Toei establishes an animator training program. Great. And Hideaki. Oh, Ano's getting the purple ribbon.
Of course.
Like 0% surprised by that. That's pretty much all I have. Or that I like open to like check up on this week. There's probably something else that I'm forgetting, but you'll probably say it, or
well, I had a quick question, which was you had watched Love After World Domination, correct? A little bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
What was your final impression? Because I'm actually thinking of catching up on that one.
I would say, how do I put it? I'm seeing more coverage of it from other people, like posting stuff about like recent episodes, and I think it's getting much more. The other characters are more developed than I thought they were going to be. Okay. Especially like his Sentai teammates. Because the first episode, I don't know, it kind of made it seem as though like just the main two characters are going to be the primary focus. But I think as the episodes go on, they're having like arcs with each of his teammates, like kind of like finding out about shit, and then some of her people finding out about it, and then not turning into like a huge battle or something, but like people respecting their like relationship and respecting their space and shit like that. So that kind of made me like second look guess it and basically be like, should I hop back into this? Is this a little bit more than what I thought it was? Because the first episode definitely gave me, okay, this is just going to be goofy shit with y'all just trying not to get caught. But I think it's a little bit more than that.
Cool. So, I mean, we can run over to recommendations. I have a strong one this week, but I want to come back to it as well. So, I started reading a very interesting webtoon. This is actually by a Western author, a black man, Brent Bristol. He wrote and is in the process of writing, I should say, a series called Ordeal. And I encourage anybody who is just a fan of both like manhwa, manga, the best of sort of cartoon as like superhero cartoon, as well as much more serious and grounded graphic novels, to give this one a look, because the art is absolutely fantastic. Fantastic. The premise is a Caribbean inspired take on a superhero world that has a lot of anime influences, but is done, in my opinion, the way I've always hoped that creators from outside the culture would do. Basically find a core cool idea and then spin it out in the most beautiful, lavish way possible, rather than getting overly fixated on rewriting the same samurai story that we've read a million times. The reason why I want to come back to this one is because, number one, it's a little on the shorter side. They're just finishing up their first season, and so there's about 35, 36 chapters out there, so there's not a ton of content, and I've only just started reading, but I absolutely love every single... There are so many black and brown characters in this series that are treated visually with the kind of cool factor that I've personally been waiting for. And I know that, in more traditional Western comics, there's plenty of great authors and illustrators out there doing justice to some classic franchises, but this is something that is original. And I want to stress that as strongly as I can. Extremely original, but still is able to pay homage to all sorts of awesome things in the past. So it's called Ordeal, and I would just suggest folks go and check it out as the first season wraps up. I want to come back to it after I finish it to give more of a review of what it is, but was so delighted to run across both Brent Bristol and this work. So he's originally from Trinidad and Tobago, and okay. And like the story, even how this got made, he'd written basically a one-shot for his sort of like a capstone project for his degree program in graphic arts, and people loved it so much that they were like, well, when is this becoming a series? When is it becoming a series? And so that's what convinced him to pick it up. But the general story is there are regular humans and superpowered humans called Kimyos. There was a war that was fought a long time ago. This is in a more grounded reality. So it's like kind of our world. But there was a war that was fought a long time in history. It's over. People kind of learned how to get along. But of course, since these superhumans are superhuman, combat sports like MMA, boxing, and everything else kind of, had to go out the window. And so instead of MMA, they have MMA, which allows regular people to fight with these superhumans. And the main character is just a normal human fighter who fights against Kimyos in mixed martial arts and beats the shit out of them. And his master gets killed, or his trainer, and then he kind of goes on a revenge mission. Very simple. It's cool. It looks great. I suggest, again, anyone check it out if they have the chance.
This week I'll be recommending Toradora.
Ooh.
I mean, if you guys, did I do that already? I probably have done it already.
I don't think so.
I don't care. I fucking rewatched a little bit of it this week, and no, okay, that's a lie. I didn't rewatch all of it, but I watched some some scenes from Toradora. And yeah, that's kind of like a romantic anime basic. Like you gotta do it. You gotta do it, y'all. Especially if you enjoyed My Dress Up Darling, you're gonna get similar like character growth arcs from this. Although it's going to be a little bit slower than My Dress Up Darling because the characters aren't as confident and fully realized as Dress Up Darling characters are. But they get like by the end, that whole cast is like fucking fire. Like everybody's fucking fire. So yeah, I recommend Toradora. Just watch all of it. Some people would recommend you read it, but I think that like the anime literally ends like right before the light novel ends. So like there's really not much more story left after it ends. So it's pretty much a complete story. Like it's like whatever they gave us, that's it. Like so, it's quick. What 23, 24 episodes? Knock it out. The animation stands up to today's standards. It's not super duper Sakuga because it's not supposed to be Sakuga. It's not slice of life porn where it's just like the eyes and the eyelashes are like super duper detailed. It's nothing like that. It's a story that goes off the rails and, they got to get it back on the rails or else it's just gonna, it's gonna be a really bad time for everybody. Not death, but you know what I mean, romance wise. But yeah, that's my recommendation for the week. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Yep, that's it for this week.
Alrighty. Well, if you haven't already, make sure you follow us on Twitter, anime_savants, and then everywhere else is just anime savants on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, etc., etc. There will be some TikTok clips of past episodes because Dick Fight Island is a ringer. It's a ringer. It brings in the views. So
I wish it didn't.
Well, you know what? I mean, they're just so predictable. Just all of them. But yeah, there'll be more stuff of that popping up there, etc., etc. Whatchamacallit? I think the ghost story questions have stopped. I'm like shocked. Like, wow. Okay. Wow. Like, they're coming, but like what? Whoa. Okay. Anyways, whatever. Yeah, they're coming, but you can definitely hit everything up on the YouTube because you can watch us on the YouTube as opposed to just listening to us everywhere else. But yeah, that's all for that.
Yep. You can always find me on Twitter at Neural Handshake. And I do read the comments that show up on the YouTube video, so we're trying our best to, again, incorporate at least some of the requests and questions and other things that we see there. So if you want to contact us, you can do it either through the Anime Savants accounts across all of our social media, or you can reach out to myself or Jordan, or on the YouTube. We're here. We listen.
Indeed. All right, that's all I got for this week. Bye.
Peace out.